Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on September 11th, 2024, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Karen Latin, and I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Xfinity Channel 18 and is being recorded for on-demand archives available on the town's website. It's being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, whether attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you've been recognized. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're attending by phone, you can mute and unmute by using *6. If you're online and you are not a commissioner, please keep your camera turned off unless you have been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raised hand feature. So that we have a record of a quorum, I will now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Elise Gordon is not here. Janet Williams?
Present.
Cheryl Meservey is not here. Eric Hilbert?
Present.
Paul Johnson is not here. And our brand new full member, thank you, Bob Del Vecchio.
Present.
And I am here, so we've established we do have a quorum. Phew. Before we begin the agenda, are there any announcements about any continuances today? Catherine?
Yes, thank you. The following addresses have requested a withdrawal or continuance. The application for request for determination of applicability at 39 Homestead Lane. The applicant has requested to withdraw their RDA application. The application for notice of intent for 500 Shore Road. The applicant has requested to continue to 9/25/24. And the application for notice of intent for 4 Harbor View Road. The applicant has requested to continue to the 9/25/24 hearing.
Perfect, thank you. At this point, Catherine Ricks, who is our Chatham Associate Conservation Agent, will now lead us through the agenda. But I will be reading the very first order of conditions on the agenda, and this is due to the fact that Catherine Ricks is recusing herself from this property. The property is 30 Sears Point Lane, McClay Family Property, LLC, map 11A1, parcel 6-4, SE 10-3677, proposed waterfront maintenance. All right. Do we have anybody here?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Hi, Bill.
How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Very, very well.
Good.
Ryan Kavanaugh and Stephen Lee are both present as well, but we only have one requested change.
Okay.
It's a familiar one. On page 11R, under general conditions, paragraphs 11 and 12, standard language prohibition against coastal engineering structures. And since, of course, this order of conditions allows a bulkhead, 11 and 12 are inappropriate.
Okay. We actually did remove those, but you should keep in mind that if they don't apply, as it says in the order, any of the conditions that are listed under anything besides special conditions, if it doesn't apply, you can ignore it. But we did remove 11 and 12.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? From anybody? Bob? No. Eric? No. Okay, then we can have a motion.
All right, I move that we close the hearing and approve the order of conditions as amended in this hearing for 30 Sears Point Lane.
Second.
Okay, Janet?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye, so that has passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Catherine, we are ready for the next.
Okay, we have a request for an order of conditions at 60 Robbins Way, map 10K, parcel 12-19. The applicant is Yuji Sujimoto, and the Massachusetts DEP SE number 10-3697. This is for proposed driveway reconfiguration and installation of a septic with AI components, including planting.
Great, thank you. Do we have anybody? I see Thad.
And
Okay,
Shannon's here,
Thad.
too.
Oh,
Good afternoon.
you can come up.
For
Hi,
the record,
Thad.
Thad Eldergy Southeast. I had emailed a number of revisions yesterday, 11C findings. We really want to limit the mitigation to that VBS to the isolated wetland and not the foundation plantings. The disturbance within the 50 should be qualified as landscaping, as they're just changing lawn to native landscape beds. There was a typo with an extra space.
Right, I did take care of
And-
that.
Nice. The invasive vines, we're not looking to propose any herbicides out here. It's just a cut
So we
and
made
pull when they're
changes
dead.
here. Okay.
Oh, they're all made?
I have made most of them. There
Okay.
are a few things. I did do everything about how you are treating the invasives, the cut and pull, not cut and wipe. And that I did say that, I did take out the temporary irrigation. I did fix I did take out the word prescriptive easement and changed that.
It's existing.
Oh, okay. I think it has not been approved yet. It has not gone into, the easement, is that existing or pending?
Pending.
Oh, okay,
That's why.
never mind.
My only thing I didn't do was the changing the mitigation because, and I just, because it is presented on the plan as differently. And then I had a question, because, I'm trying to make sure we're at the 75% native. There were a couple things, because we received that list, you're at 0 to 50. And by the way, Shannon's here, Thad, so
Okay.
don't worry. But,
She can answer the heavy lifting questions.
yeah. In the outer aura, and you say 84% is native, first of all, I wasn't sure why you included the arborvitae. If they're existing, they're not a part of anything we need to approve, so they shouldn't have even been listed.
I didn't know that.
No, it's fine. And then my other part was, when I started trying to figure this out, it looked like there are 25 hydrangea that are in the outer aura. According to, if I just take, counting up the numbers of what you've said is in the outer aura. So I know I asked you last time about, was this a percentage of plants or a percentage of square feet? And you said square feet.
May I give you a sheet?
Oh, do you
where
have another?
This is represented differently,
Okay, so
based
it's
on what
the
I
number of
think you're looking
plants?
at. Yes, I believe I've answered this.
Okay, great. It's a little tough when it's, as we're dealing with it, but
Thank you.
You're so thorough. Thank you.
oh, so only 20 of the hydrangeas are in the outer aura.
So in the outer aura, 89% are native? Is that-
Yes.
I'm going to add
Yeah,
that.
so now
84
we
by
can-
area and 89.
I couldn't
By
update the
number.
order because I wanted to be sure where we were with that. You know, after going back and when I started to write the order, I started to have some more questions, you know, because I hadn't had time to look at it.
Okay.
We did remove your general conditions 11 and 12.
They were.
And as you heard me say for the previous property, that they are things that if it pertains, then they should be followed. And,
Don't apply, don't apply.
yeah, if they don't apply, they don't apply. But we took them out. Okay, the conditions for demolition, you had, for number one, I didn't do anything with that, and it says, does the driveway constitute a structure? There's room to stockpile within the limit of work, not much, but some. This is number one in the general. So.
And that one just reads that trucks will be waiting, and it's, I don't think they have to have trucks waiting. They have some room there that they can continue to work as trucks come and go.
Okay, so this is in general conditions. I have to get there.
Which one?
Um, It's in conditions for demolition, number one. I'm trying to find it as well.
Page 11H.
Oh, yeah. All materials and debris generated during demolition of existing structures shall be loaded onto waiting trucks and removed from the site daily. Well, they do have to be removed from the site. Stockpiling of debris shall not occur in any resource area, and I see why, because the driveway is within the resource.
Right. So what is the proposed change? Take out waiting?
There's
The
no
trucks
trucks.
won't be-
They want to stockpile it on a driveway.
Yeah, but then where does it go?
Some of it will go by truck and some of it will.
So in general, it will eventually get loaded onto trucks and removed from the site, right?
Daily?
Yeah?
Presumably.
There
Okay.
should be some room to stockpile here, and obviously in the
Take out waiting.
outside of
Okay.
jurisdiction.
So we
they can
just took
stockpile.
out the word waiting.
Okay, good.
Is that satisfactory?
Yeah, I just don't want to argue with a contractor later on that you have to have everything removed
no.
immediately.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure that you knew what we did and if that met what you wanted. Everything else that we have taken care of. So
Right.
given that, do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, I added by email that you've probably already seen.
I think I have.
I commented rather, didn't
Yeah,
add.
I'm trying to remember.
It was just about herbicide, and there was one other thing.
Yeah,
I forget
and,
what that was.
okay, I would like to add that the proposed mitigation area is the strip of Joe Pye and butterfly weed, 959 square feet, and will be kept apart from the invasives areas with a mowed strip. I also see no need to use herbicides on this project, which I think we just say you can't, so that's fine. And the only invasives you're taking care of is vines on the trees that will be cut and pulled again once they're dead, which I've added that verbiage. So, I think we're good with what you said. Now,
Okay.
Bob, Eric, do you have anything to add or change?
Well, the herbicides could be used, right? We've always approved them for invasive removal of weeds only.
And they see no need to use them. So if you do find out, then I didn't take anything out saying that you can't use.
Okay,
Everything we're adding is either in a bed that's been dug out or is currently lawn grass.
Okay,
So I don't see that we'd be having to kill anything.
except for those vines up the linden and,
Yeah, and we thought we would just cut and pull those rather than get into herbicides.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, there'd just be, the only thing I can add, sometimes pulling does the trees and bushes and more harms. Sometimes you just cut them and let them die and wither away, and they'll just fall out over time. That's the only thing I can add to that. I don't know, as far as pulling them out, if they're really up there, you would need a, climber to get up in the tree and,
Yeah, I'm contemplating hiring a tree company
yeah.
Okay.
to do the pruning also that you wanted done.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? All right, we're ready for a motion.
And I will make a motion that we close the hearing and approve the order of conditions as we've amended it here today for 60 Robbins Way.
Second.
Okay, Janet,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. You're all
Thank you.
set. Thank you.
All righty, thank you.
Okay, Catherine, we're ready for the next.
Okay, going on to the determination of applicability. So we have a request for determination of applicability at 27 Strong Island Road, map 12M, parcel 16-B19, R-24-23 for William Benjamin. The applicant proposes a replacement of existing patio with deck or pervious pavers, replacement of existing front walk with pervious bluestone pavers, replacement of existing plants with native plants within the inner aura, and a new foundation plants in the outer aura.
How are you?
Good afternoon. Phil Cheney, landscape designer here representing the Benjamins.
Yep.
Bill Benjamin is also present if we have particular questions for him. But I think this project is fairly narrow in scope. The Benjamins have only been an owner for a very short time. The prior owners had applied through an RDA to replace the existing patio with a deck, just as we're doing now, and it was approved. So it was kind of taking on that lead that this would be perhaps approvable by RDA. In addition, the Benjamins are concerned that the beach plums, which I assume were a prior mitigation planting on the bank, are just going to continue to grow and obscure their view. And rather than continuing to renew vista pruning permits there, thought it might be worthwhile to just replace with a more permanent planting where that would not be necessary. So I have proposed on the plan that you have a new planting scheme which extends further along the bank with lower plants in front of the view and the taller plants with a much greater diversity than the existing 6 beach plums now along that stretch. So I think that would really be an improvement, and it would really would no longer necessitate, a new word there, necessitate the continual vista pruning, renewals, et cetera. Now, additionally, the front walk would like to be replaced with a different paving material. They're partial to brick and the astral bluestone, simply because it's a little more even on the feet, and would like to extend it an extra few feet to access another doorway. This is all outside of the 50-foot buffer. We're reducing some of the square footage of the existing walks area, and so the total increase is only 50 square feet, which we can mitigate by just adding a couple of swamp azaleas within the 50-foot buffer. And then there's some new foundation plantings where we're following the 75% rule by adding sufficient native plants along with the exotic plants that we're including on there. So we're also taking out, say, some invasive, so Bradford pear, not exactly state listed, but it's considered a nuisance tree, replacing that with a serviceberry, and removing some other like Rosa Sharon and lilacs, which can also be invasive. So it's a few shrub replacements. For the vast majority of the project, it's vegetation replacement and the patio replacement, which was approved prior with the prior owners, and then the extension of the walk. So I think it's very doable by an RDA rather than going through a whole notice of intent for a small amount of work. But I'll leave that to you.
So on the plan, you say that you're replacing the existing patio with bluestone or wood decking.
I'm sorry, yes.
So now you're saying
No,
it's not wood decking.
no, I'm sorry. It's currently a patio, okay? It's a tumbled bluestone, small pieces.
Right.
It's kind of uneven. And they would like permission to replace it with either deck, a wood deck, which was what the prior application was for, or in this case, the possibility of actual bluestone. They haven't quite decided which route they would like to take.
Well, if the patio is replaced with a deck, then a special permit is required by ZBA. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay. Is
But
that
I'm
new
ju-
since previous?
I can't speak
Yeah,
to
okay.
anything except for that that's the comment I
Sure.
received.
Okay.
From ZBA.
Okay,
Which they give us sort of when things are being heard or if they
Gotcha.
need to be heard by them. And
okay,
that's what they said.
okay. So if it were to just be a patio, then it would not be,
According
issue with
to
that.
what she's written, yes.
okay?
You say the change in coverage is about 50 square feet.
Correct.
What I see is that the change in coverage is 145 because you say 95 square feet to replace the pavers with dry-laid brick extending walk, and then replace pavers with dry-laid bluestone was approximately 50 square feet plus or minus, you said.
Less,
Oh, okay, so that's 50
That's-
less, not
right.
plus or
correct,
minus.
correct.
So
Yep, so
that, okay.
So that gives us our net
Well,
45.
you need to update the plan for that.
The plan does say less, 50 feet
Yeah, but it
less.
says plus or minus before it.
That's what you always put.
Okay, well, this is also not a stamped plan. I don't know why. And you submitted a variance request, which I
Yes.
get.
Yep,
RDA, we can't grant a variance request.
okay. I didn't know if one would even be necessary. I didn't want the lack of one because there was work being done in the 50 to hold it up.
If work's being done within the NDZ, we need a variance request.
Even if it's just
and
vegetation.
If work is being done within the NDZ,
Okay.
you do need to apply. So as a result, I know an initial meeting was held with our agent, and he has told me that this was more, that the project became more than what he had met and said, oh, yes, an RDA would be appropriate. I think it's not appropriate, unfortunately. And it needs to be an NOI. So,
Okay,
having said that,
okay,
we can make a determination of a positive 4, which means that you need to, apply for an NOI, or you have an option, you could withdraw this request. Either way works.
okay. Any thoughts?
What are the pros and cons of going
I,
Yeah,
I
I-
think
I
they
don't-
both accomplish the same thing. You're going
Right,
to have
yes,
to
I
come with
don't-
an NOI.
yeah.
So
So-
it's just,
Well, since you're here,
Mm-hmm.
and since we've opened this hearing, I would say that we should go with the positive determination.
Yeah.
Sure.
And not ask you to withdraw after we've just
Sure.
had this conversation.
No,
So
that's
Right.
fine.
that would make
sure.
more sense anyway.
Okay. All right. Okay, now, just additionally to pick up on something looking forward, there, I do have the note on the plan that I used the site plan that was used on the house renovations that was done by TS Land Surveying, dated 5/27/24, to develop this plan, and no, it's not stamped, but I'm using that file. So I don't know if you're going to need to have
we do.
a separate stamp, okay?
We do need a stamped
Yep. Okay,
plan.
all right,
That we can't,
very good.
unfortunately. All right, then we are ready
Let me just
for-
add, I mean, I am sympathetic to,
Sure.
Yeah.
to vegetation projects. It just so happens, though, that, from my perspective, that this one is on the coastal bank and in the NDZ, and you haven't decided on what the material for the replacement of the patio, which is in the NDZ, is,
Yep.
all of that triggers a requirement for the variance.
Sure.
You're also, even though it's minimal, you have an increase in coverage, which triggers the requirement for some mitigation. Again, in an RDA, we don't have any ability
Sure.
to add mitigation. So I'm sorry that, you know, you went this way for, you know, no reason at the end of the day. I do understand that the projects, as they do, evolved over time and grew over time, so most of your stuff is still applicable. I would ask, though, that when you come back, that you provide a bit more explanation for where you say prune out the bittersweet. I'm not really sure what that means or what that
Yeah.
does, or,
It's-
bittersweet
yeah.
being pruned doesn't strike me as, you know, anything other than good for a couple of weeks, but, whatever.
Yes, and I appreciate further guidance on that, too. It's not like it's an overwhelming amount of bittersweet or one thick patch or anything, but as we all know, it pops up here, it pops up there, and they would like the ability to themselves
it.
to prune it down, you know, as
keep it
close to the
lower.
base as you can get, you know, without, you know, going through the whole, you know, control situation
Right.
in there. And so
Yeah.
It's
you're
kind
not
of a
gonna
vague
treat it.
area.
You're not, there's no treatment, you're not gonna
right,
pull it
yeah,
out, you're
not trying to do a
chemically
whole
treat it.
control program, but yeah, it pops up, as we all know, and
Yeah.
they'd like just to make sure that that's
Correct.
something
Okay.
that they can
And-
do.
And I don't think normally we would have a problem with that, it's just that it happens to be, it's on the coastal bank itself that you're
Yep.
talking
Right.
about. So
Sure.
there's, in terms of conducting the pruning,
Yep.
there's getting onto the bank and how it gets accessed.
Yep.
I mean, there's some
Sure.
issues around that, and so just think about that when you.
Okay,
when you
so,
apply
so
that.
the implication is we'd
need
be
a
better off
protocol.
not to ask for it.
Well, I'm
No,
not saying that.
you know, we love invasive.
Right, say, I don't know how to, I mean, I don't know how to get around that. It's an honest question, it's like,
Yeah, no, I hear you. Let me ask
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got
the experts at the.
Our left, my left side.
Those guys know
and
way more than I do
They're our
about this.
advisors.
Pruning bittersweet on the bank?
No, you just, if you're pruning bittersweet, you're cutting it down and pulling
Right.
it out of the plants, I guess. And it would have to be an ongoing maintenance issue, I would imagine.
that's the idea, is
Yeah.
that as it appeared, it would be, you know, cut and removed.
Just going to do it
I-
for a long
I have
time.
to- I have to ask
Yeah.
a question, though, as far as these beach plums go. They're gorgeous beach plums. Well, what, I mean, up on the deck, I've been up on the deck, and, I mean, it's a pretty good view from up on the deck, sitting down. That's how I look at things. What is the maximum height on the beach plums? There must be pretty much close to a maximum height on a beach plum.
I've seen them easily get 10 or 12 feet. Okay, so, yeah, they're just going to be either continuously cut hard back to see over there, or one of the general preferences seems in recent years is to just try to eliminate that possibility, but by using plants that won't grow as tall. You know, like the Virginia rose, yeah, 4 to 5 feet's pretty much its max. But yeah, I've seen beach plum get 10 or 12 feet even,
It's
you know,
just
on
pretty
occasion.
unusual to remove
Yeah.
indigenous species.
Yep.
That was actually a previous mitigation
Sure.
project from previous owners
Yep.
to begin with.
And if I was just going to say we're going to put in 6 new shrubs to replace, I could see your reluctance, but we're talking about putting in 29 shrubs to replace 6 and covering a much larger area. So I felt like that's definitely a benefit. I understand the
They wouldn't- well,
purpose
you'd
of the
have to
originals.
Because they're so small. I mean, you're talking roses and things like that.
Oh, yeah, and the original, though, only called for 6,
Yeah,
and they weren't big either.
right.
So I say I think we're certainly duplicating the mass.
Okay. Bob, your thoughts?
There's no way you can transplant those, Phil, huh, somewhere?
I doubt it.
I mean, it's probably a lot more disturbance if we're trying to dig those up there, you know, on the coastal bank. You have to get
Yeah.
in, that'd be a lot of soil moving.
Okay, and there are also honeysuckle plants behind the existing beach plum, as well as the bittersweet. And I know that's been pruned down,
Yeah.
too, it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, they're pretty invasive as well. So are you going to do anything about those, especially when you're
Wasn't
putting
the
them up
plan
next to
since-
the new plants?
That That wasn't the plan, since they're not as, you know, I mean, the bittersweet smothers and the honeysuckle has taken up space, but it's not, other than seeding around, which, you know, is the case with any invasive, is an issue, but I don't think we're gonna fix that by, you know, cutting out or there, unless you do the cut and swipe on something like that. You're just keeping it down. It's just.
Is there
pruning
going to
it
be
down.
any space between the new plants and the existing?
No more than there is now. I mean, basically, they pretty much abut. The slope there is pretty steep, and having like a mow strip would be difficult in that area. And there doesn't seem to be much encroachment there. And the encroachment, if there were some, would probably be bittersweet, which we're looking to cut, as it appears. So that's how we're trying to handle that, because I didn't think a mow strip would be very suitable on that steeper portion.
No.
No.
Okay,
Well, we'll have another opportunity
yeah.
to hear this.
Well, I appreciate all the input. That's useful
So,
to understand.
all right,
All right,
anything else? Okay, we're ready.
all right, I'll make a motion for a positive 4 determination for 27 Strong Island Road.
Second?
Janet,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. Okay,
Thank you. Take care.
thank you. Okay, Catherine, the next one.
Okay, another request for determination of applicability at 39 Homestead Lane, map 15C, parcel 21, R-24-25, for John W. and Stacy S. Brooks Trust. The application is for landscaping for screening from sight, sound, and sense of the pump station, and the applicant has requested to withdraw the RDA application.
Thank you.
All right, then I move that we approve the request for the withdrawal of the application for 39 Homestead Lane.
Second?
Janet,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. Okay, Catherine, the next one.
Okay. A request for determination of applicability at 65 Squanto Drive, map 10C, parcel E16, R-24-24, for Judith and Scott Stewart. Application for pruning of 6 oak trees to improve airflow and balance, to better withstand severe weather, and removal of invasive plants strangling the trees.
How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm Victoria Dalmas, an attorney with Senni and Associates, and I'm here with Mike Roma, certified arborist. We represent the Stewarts in this RDA, which I've detailed in the project narrative. And Mike may want to be here to answer questions that you may have specifically regarding the request to prune 6 oak trees, and also to deal with some invasive plants that are strangling those trees.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add?
Just the 2 items, there, I did put, I don't know if you received the pictures, the marker didn't work so well. On the back right corner of the home, there are 2 sassafras trees that lean towards the back deck, which, both of the homeowner and myself, we were up in the air on, you know, is this something that should come out? Is this something that we could prune? And I kind of left it up for the board, or however he writes it. That being said, a couple of things of concern for me would be, he had 3 instances in the past where trees had fallen on his house. So that's, not that that means much, but where that is a lot of wind that picks up there. It's very sandy soil, and those are shallow rooted as well. All those things considering, I know it, I don't know if that, I mean, I don't mind doing whatever they say to whether prune or remove, but in my opinion, it may have been a better choice to take them out. But if it's something that requires a different application or anything like that, then we don't even want to go that route at this point. It's more, we did want to protect the property and the homeowner as well, but I don't know what guidelines that falls under for you guys.
Well, I mean, it changes what you applied for. So right now, you're saying 6 oak trees. So there would be 8. And, yeah, we received the better pictures. Thank you very much. yesterday, and much more helpful as far as being able to picture. It's hard to tell when you're out there what all needs to be removed and all of that. They look really healthy, most of it. So what is, I mean, the trees, the 6, most of them are pretty far from the house. So what is the reason for removing them? They don't
No,
seem
none of
to
them were
block a
proposed to,
view?
none of them. We don't want to remove any of those trees.
Well, you
Not a
want to
one.
prune.
Oh, yeah, they're super. If you see them, you can't see any of the canopy. They have,
Right.
not that who the heck's maintaining a tree in that kind of area? There's all thicket, you can't walk down, there's bullbriar, bittersweet.
Right.
It's very limited, but the point is this, they're lovely trees in their own right. So as far as a preservation standpoint, absolutely, because it's so windy, you get heavy winds, you lose a huge branch. So that was to thin out the canopies. This isn't a view
Right.
thing. If you look at the pictures, the view's spectacular. What do you need
It
more of a
is.
view?
And
They got a great view. It's awesome.
go ahead,
I'm
Elmer.
sorry.
So I just want to confirm the pictures that you sent in, and thank you for doing that, with the red X's are indicating the limbs that are proposed for pruning, and nothing beyond what is marked on these photographs, because this is what the agent will use when she checks that, when the project is done, to make sure that it's fully compliant. So these are the right X's.
Correct.
Okay, because she did indicate that they were all appropriate for pruning.
Yeah.
For one reason or another. Some are clearly dead, some are too close to the deck, some are too close to the house.
And for the sassafras, you're
Those-
wanting to prune them?
Well, we can prune them. I don't want to change anything that's gonna stop this from, being, it can be done. My point was in the pictures, I put X's on them. They're right
You
on the
did,
deck.
okay.
If you look at the picture from the deck, there's a black cherry there and there's 2 sassafras. They're right on they actually almost touch the deck if you see in the pictures.
Yeah.
So again, we're not.
Okay. I
Um,
just wanted
yeah.
to be clear, with those, you're just wanting to prune.
Prune, or, well, like I said, they were leaning, so that I didn't know if it's gonna change it, then leave it the way it is. It's not an issue.
Okay. I think we could approve
So
the
just the 2
pruning.
sassafras.
Just to prune them, yeah, fine.
Okay.
Bob, Eric?
Yeah. When I visited, I was with a homeowner. We did notice that on the west side that the vines, believe it or not, some of the vines, you could maybe leave some of them because they do provide privacy from the neighbor on the east side. We noticed that when we were there. Just to keep that in mind, because if you clean it all out completely, then they're gonna be exposed to each other, so. That's it, thanks. But other than that, pruning should be a help to the trees, absolutely. Thanks.
Go ahead. Bob?
Yeah, I saw the trees next to the deck, Mike, and, yeah, they're really not good to have them right there, right along the deck. So the cherry I noticed, I didn't notice the sassafras, but, yeah, pruning would be a good thing to do there, yeah.
We weren't even recommended to take those cherries out because like Eric said, those are a screen from the neighbor. That was
Yeah.
never proposed to take those out, but the ones, I actually think I put X's on each one as a concave to show where I want to actually just prune them to, not to remove, because I just wanted them away from the deck, because they're almost touching the deck, if you can see in
Yeah.
the pictures. Yeah, I did,
But,
none of that was proposed to come out. There was the
Okay.
2 sassafras in question, that was all.
So as far as the oaks go, it's not really for the view, but it's for the health of the trees, and,
If you look at those pictures, you're not
Yeah.
gonna get much better of a view than that.
yeah.
It's awesome.
No, that's why
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Yeah, yeah.
verify the purpose. All right, then I
Thank you.
think we are ready for a motion.
Okey dokey. I will make a motion for a -2 determination for 65 Squanto Drive.
Second.
Janet?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
so
a good
much.
day.
Okay, Catherine, the next one, sorry.
Okay, moving on to the notices of intent. Application for notice of intent at 500 Shore Road, map 16G, parcel 3D-A5 for Heather Butler, Massachusetts DEP number SE 103681 for the construction of beach access stairs within the pedestrian access easement located at 500 Shore Road. The applicant has requested a continuance to the September 25th hearing.
All right, then we can have a motion, please.
I move that we continue 500 Shore Road to the hearing on September 25th.
Second.
Janet,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. Okay, Catherine, we're ready
Okay.
for the next.
Notice of intent application for parcel H13 Captain Knowles Way, map 11C, parcel H13 for Minglewood Homes Incorporated, Massachusetts DEP SE number 10-3698. The application is for construction of a dwelling within the riverfront area and the buffer zone to a coastal bank, and construction of a swimming pool within the buffer zone to a coastal bank.
How are you?
Good. David Clark Engineering on behalf of Minglewood Homes. Tim Smith, the owner of Minglewood Homes, is in the audience, and I believe Jen Crawford is online, or somebody from Crawford Land Management. So this is a vacant lot at the end of Captain Knowles Road. It fronts on Oyster Pond River. There is a wetland on the south side of the property, an old cranberry bog that has an outlet that is shown as a blue line on the USGS map, and is certainly an established flow there, so it is a perennial stream under the Rivers Act. The lot was created prior to 1998, so the Rivers Act applies. The alternatives analysis to the Rivers Act required under the Rivers Act is limited to the site itself. And because it predates the Rivers Act, the regulations state that the Conservation Commission may allow up to 15% or 5,000 square feet of the riverfront area to be altered. Looking at those two resource areas, the coastal resource area and then the inland resource area, there is a small little area in between the 200 foot from the stream and the 100 feet from the coastal bank that's outside of those buffer zones. We've tried to place nearly all of the construction activity in that area, but there's no way to get to the construction site without going through the riverfront area. So we have to put a driveway through the riverfront area to get to the house. We're also proposing a pool and patio that extends into the 50 to 100 foot setback from the coastal bank. With all that construction activity, we were still under the 35% under your regulations as a maximum for site coverage within the outer OR. When these lots in Captain Knowles Road went through the subdivision process, town water was not available on the Stage Neck area. That didn't come down until 1990, well after this lot was created. The town did bring town water down Skunk's Neck Road, but stopped at Captain Sears Road. So we'll have to connect to the main further down the street and bring it along the shoulder, bring town water all around the cul-de-sac and into the property. The developers back in the late 80s did bring in communication and electric. That is available at the street, but gas is not, and we'll be bringing natural gas up the road too. As I stated, the lot is a vacant lot. There was a house here back 50, 60 years ago. There's the remains of a driveway. You can barely make it out. You look back on Google Earth. 20-something years, and it's a little bit more visible, but not much. But the area was maintained as a field since the creation of the lot. There's been less mowing over the last few years. So a lot of the understory is not present in the middle of the lot. We're providing drainage for the driveway. The driveway will be pervious, but we're still providing drainage. We have a Title V system that we're locating underneath the driveway to try to keep the site disturbance to a minimum. Project does not require any zoning relief. It's a conforming lot. Everything we're proposing is conforming as far as zoning is concerned. Project doesn't require, does require Board of Health review. The Board of Health granted the extra bedroom on this property, and we are providing nitrogen-reducing technology as part of the septic system. That's it on my end. Because it's a vacant lot, 100% what we're doing needs to be mitigated, and Crawford's here to talk about that.
Good afternoon. For the record, Jen Crawford, Crawford Land Management. Let me know if I'm breaking up at all. My connection seems to be a little funky this afternoon. So just to pick up on a few of the things that Dave said, the lot is completely vegetated, but much of the area has only canopy cover and no understory vegetation, other than some sporadic areas of Pennsylvania sedge and Deschampsia flexuosa and an overabundance of poison ivy, which is super pleasant when we were out there inventorying vegetation. The area along the BVW is the area of the lot that has really the only invasive species on the lot, and they're pretty dense. It's mostly shrub honeysuckle. There's border privet, among other things, but those are the predominant species that are in that most southern portion of the lot against the BVW. In terms of the tree canopy, it's a pretty typical oak pitch pine woodland with both black and scarlet oak, a lot of pitch pine, many growing very close together, so you can see as they are growing up in an even age stand like that, you can see some of them have been shaded out and are in decline. There's a lot of coarse woody debris laying on the ground, especially in that 0 to 50-foot buffer from the coastal bank. In terms of the revegetation, we are providing the required mitigation for the project. In this case, we are providing it in the form of invasive species management and really tackling that buffer to the BVW there on the south. We've provided a lot of tree mitigation. We were taking all of our calculations directly from Chatham Wetland Protection Regulations 5.02 and 3G. That table was included on our plan for you. So the 2-to-1 mitigation for trees removed within the footprint of the structure, 1-to-1 for trees removed that are under 15-inch DBH, and 2-to-1 requirement for any trees removed that were greater than 15 inches. So once we got through all of the tree inventory information, we are providing that requirement, which added up to 61 trees that we will be adding to the property. Most of those trees, or at least as many as we feasibly thought were healthy, to place within that buffer to the BVW. All of the trees within those mitigation calculations are within your jurisdiction, at least one of those buffer zones. Yes, within at least one of those buffer zones. The invasive species management portion of the project would be completed as we complete all of ours. All of those notes are on our plan for you, for your review. I don't really think there are too many nuances to the project. It's fairly straightforward in terms of the mitigation being provided. So with that, I'm going to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We also have another plan. Oops. We also have another plan from Acer Landscape Design.
Yes.
I don't know. That has just some foundation plants, just in case anybody's here that wants to speak to that. But the trees that are being removed, I know you gave us the number and the size. I think we need a better inventory, like showing which ones are the ones that are less than, 15-inch DBH or greater than, what it is, how big it is, and where it's located. We've had that.
We have that information from our field work, and we could put that on we didn't include that on our current plan because there was already so much information on it that I didn't think it would be particularly useful to you. But we can certainly submit a supplemental plan that shows the tree removal piece, because we did take DVH
Right.
species of each one of them.
Yeah, you could just say tree number 1, here's where it is, and this is what it is.
Sure.
That
Yep.
type of thing.
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
So
Jen, go ahead.
it's basically not that much different from what you've done, but it's removing some of the extraneous stuff on the plan, so it's focused on the trees, and rather than the X marking, to put a number there so that
Yep.
that corresponds to a table, so we know the species and the size of what's coming out. The way I look
Yep,
at this,
I
it looks to
understand.
me like every tree within the limit of work is proposed to be removed. So we have to have some discussions about that, and in order to have that, we need to be able to refer to specific trees and understand the proposed justification for removal. So that would be
Yep.
helpful.
Like,
Also,
Yep.
if anything is staying, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess, to mark that as well in a different color or something, but I don't think any trees in the limit of work are being
There-
retained.
There is one.
Ah,
There is one, and actually the arrow on the screen, or at least on my screen, is actually pointing at a note that says tree protection fence. So there is one. It's a cherry along that side, and it is within the limit of work, but we did call out for that to be protected. But we can inventory it as you have requested. We have all the information, so that's not a problem.
and to the extent that there are under canopy vegetation, native vegetation in the limit of work, is that proposed to be removed as well? Is this going to be basically cleared before construction?
So currently, and David could probably speak to this probably better than I can, but with the grading work that was required, the limit of work for the most part was kept pretty tight to any of the necessary grading work to make positive drainage from the structure feasible, so to speak. And so we did include renaturalization of much of that disturbed area on our plan, and that is shown in a specific hatch for you. It is not part of our mitigation calculations. However, our mitigation is focused solely to the south, and the other areas that you see hatched on our plan are intended to be renaturalized as opposed to part of the more traditional landscape, so to speak. So
But then that renaturalized area is shrubs and grasses and perennials, not
that
trees.
that renaturalized area now we have shown as more of a seeded meadow area with the trees. As the trees obviously grow and mature, it will kind of naturally, I think, convert itself, especially along the south side of the driveway there, to more of a shaded condition. But there are certainly plenty of seed source for that to, I think, happen naturally over time. But currently we have not included shrub plantings in that renaturalized area. And honestly, in that whole central portion of the lot, there really isn't anything of significant note other than a lot of poison ivy. But we can take another look to see if we can identify a few things, but it really, it's a lot of just downed branches, debris, and poison ivy through that central part.
okay. So, staying on the tree topic. Like, I'm looking at your plan, and to the left, I guess west of the pool, you have, and you have this large retaining wall along the pool. But there, right where there's an opening in the retaining wall, you have a tree to come out, yet I can't figure out why. And the same on the other side of the pool and patio, there's a tree to come out, and then even toward the coastal bank, you have a tree coming out right along the line for the 50 that I can't figure out why they're coming out. So that's sort of why we're asking for a better inventory, because I don't really understand why some trees are being removed, and that's just the example.
Right, for each tree, we'd like to see a justification.
Then going on to this retaining wall that's along the pool, can you explain why it's so large, why it extends all the way to the property line on the west side and pretty far on the right side? It goes to sort of the edge of where the house is. Is this because of grading, or?
That's actually not Jen's design, that's the landscape
Yeah.
architect's design. He apologizes, he was not able to get to this meeting today. But Tim might be able to address that.
Well, but I'm looking at Jen's.
Yeah, it's on Jen's plan, but that came
Yeah.
from the landscape
Oh,
architect.
okay.
So
I'm not
before,
the landscape architect on this one in particular. We're just acting as the environmental consultant for this project. There was a different landscape designer involved in the, in those portions.
so maybe David also, and Tim, you might be able to address some of what the grading changes are proposed to be
Yeah.
here, because I think that's driving some of this.
Yes.
So, as far as grading, the highest point on the lot is basically in that area that's outside your jurisdiction. And in order to meet the setback from the easterly property line, the house is set where it is, and it puts us basically on a saddle in both directions, sloping down to the resource areas. So it was a challenge where to set the house vertically to try to minimize the regrading. Setting it any lower to eliminate the regrading associated with the driveway meant more cutting into the slope on the northeast side of the house. So we would have a steeper slope there and less fill. So it's kind of a balance to try to minimize the regrading around the house. So we thought it was about an equal balance of how much we're cutting on the east and northeast side, and how much we're filling on the south and southwest side.
Okay, but my sense from walking around the site is that there's a depression kind of, right about where the house is, and then it rises up to the bank, and then it rises very slightly toward the BVW. So are you going to be leveling that and filling that area? Is that?
Well, the northeast side, we're gonna cut in, and then, so that we can keep the house low, and then so less fill on the southwest or the southerly side of the property, where those two retaining walls are with openings in them. We're gonna, and by the way, Tim Smith, Minglewood Homes, sorry about that, but, and then those two openings, so there is a pathway down to the river there, so that's why those two openings are there, is so that we can have access to the pathway to the river on their property.
So if you look at the west end of the house,
Facing the river, is that?
so as you're looking at the river, it's the left side of the house, the Oyster River. You see we have a window well there. That's elevation 26, and then from there it slopes down to the BVW to the south. And then if you go north, you hit another 26-foot contour.
Wait, where's that?
Where it goes
Where's that? Hold
down
on.
to.
Oh, there, no, that's 28. I'm looking, where's the 26? 30.
The 26 crosses that opening in the wall closest to the Oyster River. And so from that point going east, it's a continuous rise
Here.
to the other side of the house where
Okay.
the grade gets as high as elevation 30, 32 right at the property line. So we kind of picked the middle of
I see that.
between 32 and 36 to kind of where we're going to site the house. So we're trying to balance the cuts and fills. So in the immediate area between the house and the parking area, we show a new 28-foot contour that is close to the existing 24 right at the driveway, so there's 2 feet of fill there.
Okay. 24 is this.
But if
Okay.
you look at the north side of the house, we have elevation 28 and a half, and we're really close to a 30-foot contour on the northeast corner of the house. So, I mean, looking at this,
Boy, this is crazy.
With us cutting in to the west side, it's less filling in on the southerly side of that, on the north side. That was the whole thought behind that.
So, does the wall need to be this long? I mean,
I think that's a question we have to have with the landscape
I
architect.
don't think so. So let me,
because it extends almost to the edge of the house on the
Yep.
northeasterly side, and then goes all the way to the property line on the other side, and you've got 2 walls on the western side, and they both have the openings, which I get. You've said that's so that they can get to the river, but it seems excessive. And I don't know how tall these walls are supposed to be.
they'd be under 3 feet.
Okay, because it doesn't, I don't think I see anywhere that it tells us that,
If-
which would be good to have that added.
If the commission is looking for us to economize on the tree removal, looking at that area is a good place to start.
Yeah. And I assume you've already got approval from Board of Health for
Yes.
all theirs?
For the septic system.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. The size of the driveway, the parking area. I mean, do you really need that much? You've already got, you've got a garage, and it just seems like it's huge.
One of the first concepts of the driveway was a circular driveway in that location, which got trimmed down to a place to park 2 cars, in addition to the garage.
What's the size of it, the parking area? Do you know?
It's
Quickly.
big.
I think the reason they did the parking lot like that, or the driveway like that is, as you know, Captain Knoll's a very small road, very small cul-de-sac there. There's not gonna be any parking outside of the property for anybody.
Right.
So they're, trying to get, 2 cars in, 2 cars in the garage. You've gotta be able to get out of the garage, so you really can't park in that upper garage parking. That's why we put that front parking out there.
So it's 30 feet wide, so there's room for 3 cars there.
I just, and I'll leave it to others to comment on that as well, but I think it's awfully large.
Okay.
I assume all lawn will be fescue or a Cape Cod mix or whatever. It just says on the landscape plan, it just says lawn. I didn't see a note that said what the lawn will be on that one. I didn't,
The landscape architect was handling
right,
the vegetation up against the house. I told him that everything that's outside the 200 feet and 100 feet could be regular turf lawn. But I don't know,
since most of that I mean, that doesn't leave a whole lot of area that's regular turf lawn.
It doesn't. So if we're gonna do fescue or conservation planting, grass, we could do it all over.
Okay. It does need to be a Cape Cod mix, a
Yep.
fescue, something like that.
Yep.
My last thing, and this is always my little issue. Does the pool and patio really have to be that big? It's sort of, you can tell it's been planned, especially with the retaining wall where, you know, that you've got it. It's so close to the 50. If it were going into the 50, I'd have a bigger issue. But I just want to know
Yeah.
if they'd consider cutting that back some so that it's not as close to our NDZ.
We were trying to get 10 feet from the house to the edge of the pool. The pool's only 18 by 32, I think.
Right, it
So it's
is.
not a huge, but we can
This
reduce
day and
this.
age.
This day and age, right,
It's
exactly.
big enough, let me put it that way. It's big, I know pools, so, I mean, I was a swimmer, so I know
It's-
sizes of pools.
Right, it's not an Olympic-sized pool by
No,
any means,
it's not,
but it's
and that
still,
would
It's,
not
it's not a
happen.
plunge pool.
nor is it a plunge pool.
No, so, I have to do my little.
Yeah, we understand.
Asking you to consider.
Yeah, okay. We'll look into that, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think I've done enough damage for now. Go ahead, Janet.
All right, I'm just gonna pile on a little bit and say that while there are elements of this plan that I think are okay, on the whole, I find a lot of the scope to be excessive. I think you've got a driveway and parking area of 4,000 square feet. You've got a pool and patio of 2,000 square feet. That's 6,000 square feet is a lot of hardscape, even if it is semi-pervious. And I would want to ask that somehow to find ways to reduce that. I'm also, as I've indicated before, concerned about the removal of all trees within the limit of work, including in the NDZ. And we need to have a different conversation. I don't want to see this lot get cleared. It is heavily treed at the moment. It's got a healthy canopy, and removing everything would just be an excessive act, even with the saplings that are going to go in. So those are my concerns. It's just that to pull it back, shrink it down, and don't take out so many trees, and see if you can improve the overall plan that way. That's mine.
Bob?
No pool fence, correct?
No pool fence.
Says auto cover.
The delineation between the naturalized areas to be seeded with meadow mix and the lawn, can we do something with an edging or something like that?
Where is this, Bob?
Between the meadow areas and the lawn, around the house, to the east, to the west, all those areas.
So along between the driveway and the mitigation, where
Yeah, the mitigation, I was thinking of actually maybe a low fence where the mitigation area is.
So if we ran say we ran a low fence up the side of the driveway, something like that, you know, that single rail fence we've done before?
Yes.
To
along-
delineate
yeah,
sort of the
really,
wetland?
the whole mitigation area, really, and then take a, put the fence to the west also,
Okay,
as it hits the property line.
so,
Just basically right along there.
no, right here, coming up.
Oh, just the driveway.
Coming up like this, because this is all the mitigation planting,
Yeah.
right there, so, yep. And then maybe come up to this point.
Just outline that mitigation area with a low fence.
Yep, okay, we'll
And
do
the
that.
oth- And the other areas where the naturalized areas hit the lawn, I'd like to see some edging or something like that. Just to make sure that those areas aren't mowed.
Okay,
Can you see those areas there?
Yep.
And the driveway, the parking area, that's all gravel at this point?
Yes.
No permanent irrigation in our resource areas except for maybe around the house where it's not in our jurisdiction, or is it?
Some of it is,
Most
some of it
it's,
isn't.
Is.
Yeah.
Most of it is, I think.
We'd like to put in sprinklers for like the plantings, just the trickle for the plantings around the foundation where it's out of your jurisdiction, out of the 50 to the 100, or the 100,
Or the two.
which we have, and that's just right around the front of the house, basically, that 200-foot mark. Then we go back to the 100. We're trying to get all of AC units and things like that out of your jurisdiction, keeping those over within that. So most likely it would be just the front that we'd like to put in the trickle system for plantings.
So really, you don't have a whole lot of area that would get irrigation,
No.
because it's really what's between the 200 feet from the perennial stream and
In the 100,
100 from the coastal bank.
yep.
Right, just this area.
Yeah, so, and most of that is house.
Right, so it's basically
Okay.
the front yard area, or the front plantings of the house.
Yeah.
Would get the trickle system. But it's nice to have that sprinkler in there for the above-ground stuff too, so that I can tie into that and have it all above ground, the way we did at Capri, and then we can remove it after the 3 years or so.
Well, you can have temporary irrigation
Yeah,
Yep.
in
temporary.
our areas.
Yep, and above ground,
Yeah,
correct, yep.
it's just no in-ground.
No in-ground, no.
So it's gonna be a very minimal area where they get
Yep.
any irrigation.
Yeah, and that's just really pretty much in front for the front plantings,
Okay,
on the house itself. The
And that-
foundation plants.
That naturalized area in the NDZ, some limbs and woody materials on the ground, and you're just gonna leave it there.
Is this, which side is this?
In the NDZ, between the coastal bank and the.
We would like to try to get some of that bug infested, it's all that turpentine beetle all in there, just killing those, about a half a dozen pines in there, and they're all lying on the ground. If we can get that out of there, that would just, if possible. Hand pick it,
Just the infested stuff.
just the infested stuff.
But you're not gonna prune for views or anything like that.
We would,
Well, we expect to come back, because you won't consider view pruning during this stage of the permitting. So the house has to be underway, and we would like that put in the order that we would come back once we're underway to talk about a couple of view corridors to the river. But the pool going in is gonna change our perspective, so I think it's a good idea to wait. But we do expect to come back and ask for a couple of view corridors. Just limbing, not taking trees out, obviously, because that's not
yeah.
part of your view pruning protocol.
And I got one more thing. The circle, Captain Knowles Way, the rotary, the little circle at the cul-de-sac. It says existing vegetation to be removed and island to be replanted with native species. So you're gonna wipe everything out?
When the road was built, there was really, the planning board at that time didn't really care how the side slopes were vegetated. So I think they just hydroseeded it and we're done. And I think, as you can see, as you come up Captain Knowles, especially when you get past Captain Sears, everything to the left, there's a lot of invasives, I think that were all associated with road construction, because they're not really in the wetland to the left as you come up the road. They're right along the edge of the road. So the idea was to remove all those and the ones that have come up in the cul-de-sac and try to restore it to a native community. Jen can speak to that.
We also.
Yep.
Tim Smith here. We also want to be able to, we gotta get emergency vehicles down there. As you guys have been down there, it's tight.
Yeah.
And so it's all just it's been left unmaintained for many, many years, so it's all just overgrown. So we gotta be able to clear back a little bit on the cul-de-sac, be able to get a fire truck or an ambulance down in there at some point in time. getting that island cleared out.
It's supposed to be 4-foot shoulders on both sides of the road,
Yeah.
of grass, which is certainly not the case right now.
Just trying to get it so that you can access it.
I'm just thinking if there are natives within the invasives, maybe just leave those and plant around those.
Yeah. There are some, there's some, Rosa Sharon in there, and, not Rosa Sharon,
Rosa Ragosa?
thank you, Rosa Ragosa in there.
Yes, I can speak to that, especially along the shoulder to the outside of Captain Knowles Road. Most of what's in there is more shrub honeysuckle and privet, and either that or it's things that are growing into that area that are, like the limbs are reaching into that area. And it is very, very tight. I can't imagine the way it is now, any sort of emergency vehicle being able to navigate that and understand where they're going. There are some native species in that center island. And so we can make a note to leave them, but what I would like to be able to do is to leave them only if they're located more towards the very center. Because if there are large bayberry that are growing right on the edge of that, it does the same, it doesn't help for visibility or clearance.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
So can I piggyback onto that? Who owns that circle you say you're clearing? And, because it's outside the property line, from what I can see. And is it in the 50, the 100, you know,
Part of it is out of your jurisdiction and part of it is in your jurisdiction.
but we'll
We
need
can-
more detail in our jurisdiction, but this isn't really a part of the property, is it? Or do they own it?
It's a private road, so Tim owns to the center of it along his frontage. But he does have a right to pass and repass, and because the road is not up to the approved planning board standards, he has a right to bring it back into conformance with,
Okay,
for-
so
for
the part
access.
that's in our jurisdiction, we're going to need more detail on, Jen.
Okay.
You just say it's going to be removed and replanted with native, but we have no idea, you know, to be able to eventually go out and see if what you've done is what you said you were doing. And
Okay.
so we do need more detail on that.
And I would
Sure, I
also
can
suggest
provide a
that
planting plan.
since this part of the edging of Captain Knowles Road is, you're abutting Conservation Foundation property there. So technically, it looks like part of what you've got.
we're stopping at the foundation common line.
So you don't need their buy-in to do this work along the road there?
No, I'm sure they would like us to continue down the road and remove all the invasives along
Good
their
chance,
part.
but, you know, but
wait,
just
we-
don't want
we-
to step on toes. You want to
Yeah,
make sure
no,
you've got all of
we
your
stopped,
rights.
we purposely stopped.
Bob, that was all you had?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, personally, I don't have a problem with the circle myself. If there are some indigenous plants in that circle, and if there's invasive roots growing out of them, the invasives will just grow through the plants that are there, so I could see why you'd have to start over again. How are you gonna water everything? Are you gonna drill a well?
Yep.
Oh, you are, okay. The question I have, okay, I noticed you're right at the max, you're at the 30, you got that 35% down pretty good, between the 50 and the 100. As far as that pool, if you know, I could see maybe 10 feet from the house is comfortable, but maybe moving the pool east might make that wall out of the, close to that 50 on the other end. And I agree, where it breaks, you don't really, I don't know if you really need a wall on that west side where after it breaks. On the bottom, I guess the 35%, it starts, the calculation starts over again if it's a different area, right? Even though it's on the same property, the 35%
That 30.
coverage starts over again?
Yeah, that 34.7 we show is
On one
just on the,
House end,
on the coastal bank end.
right, so, okay, so it's separate, so then you're obviously less than 35% on the other end. From the zero, is there invasives from the 0 to 50 on the south end?
Yeah, that's what Jen.
There's quite a bit, I think.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Because I was
Jen-
wondering, too bad
Jen-
you just couldn't leave, why can't you just leave it? Have, so something is like how it used to be.
I'd let Jen
Yeah.
is the expert on that.
No,
I'll
why
defer
can't
to
you
her.
just leave it alone?
That whole area up against the BVW there is, it's pretty chock full of invasive species. It was actually really hard to get anywhere in there, so to
Okay,
speak.
so there are
And the
invasives.
poison ivy is, yes, that's the only place on the lot where there are invasive species. The no disturb zone to the coastal bank, I think maybe there might have been like one little tiny shrub honeysuckle in the understory, but the coastal bank itself doesn't have any sort of notable concentrations of invasive species. It's really along that BVW on the south there.
On the south, though, you can keep the trees, right?
No,
Yeah,
Yeah.
any native trees that are in there are to remain, absolutely.
So this naturalized area with seed meadow mix, so it's just gonna be a meadow with trees planted in it? So the grass will be a meadow?
proposed plant.
The-
It doesn't
Right
show
now,
the
that is
existing
what the
trees.
current plans are for the naturalized area. The mitigation area is different, but yes.
And as far as the little lawn area that's gonna be around the house, and you have to seed that, what about the black beauty sod? Isn't that pretty much a native mix?
It is an all fescue sod, that's correct.
And it's very drought tolerant also, because that's what a lot of people are starting to use now, because I've noticed it on jobs, even that it doesn't use anything, the water, it doesn't need the water and the fertilizer as, bluegrass and other things. So it's kind of like really a natural mix, isn't it? Well, it's fescue, right?
I don't know which specific species of fescue Black Beauty is, because there are many different species of fescue, but it is a sod that is all fescue and is drought tolerant. That is correct. So it does, in my opinion, it
Yeah.
takes less input to establish it than it does coming from seed, but it also partially depends on the time of year. And I'm a little bit speaking out of turn here because I'm not the landscape designer on the project or the landscape architect, but in my experience, I find that being allowed to use the Black Beauty fescue sod, especially at times of year when seed is particularly difficult to establish, depending on the construction schedule. So for instance, July and August, you have to water the bejesus out of
Well,
seed.
yeah, and it will
to get it to come in.
stabilize the soil quickly.
Yes, I would agree with those statements, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's gonna be a lot of water, that's for sure. How are you gonna get the water to the center? Just make a little cut in the road and run a pipe?
Run a hose across the street?
Oh.
I'm not quite sure. Well, right, so we would have to do something either to get a line out there to try to keep that watered. We're gonna figure that
Well, it
out.
wouldn't take much to just make a
No,
little
and
cut.
I have to bring water up to the job from, Captain
Sears.
Sears. So when we're doing that, hopefully we can run some water down that way to a line. But it wouldn't be hard to get it across the street. That road is in tough shape right now anyways. We'll probably, we'll have to, if we do something, it'll be very small.
Well, there's no other way of taking a bunch of trees down to get in here. I mean, there's
No.
just no other way. I can
You
understand that.
can't get in there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I can understand the other concerns from the members, the size, or close to the 50, but yeah, okay.
And although the Rivers Act states that alternatives are limited to the property itself, Tim did try to reach out to the vacant lot owner to the east, and hasn't been able to contact them. All he has to go on is the assessor's records. But we were considering bringing the driveway in just over a very small portion of their property, and that would eliminate a lot of tree removal, but we just can't get there.
Well, you can keep trying.
You can keep trying, yes.
And one other request, I just forgot it, a note. When we reconvene and you have the landscape architect
I will.
here, we would like to see a lighting plan for this patio and pool.
Okay.
Since it's in a coastal bank and an NDZ and
Right.
sensitive area.
Okay.
I just have one more question. I know you can't get into the view pruning down, that's gonna be down the road, which I understand, for the windows. But can you put the path on the plan? Or don't you plan on keep using the path?
Yeah, that path is on the plan, but we can put it better.
Yeah, we can,
Or do you
We've
plan
got-
on having little, steps in the banking?
well, that
natural-
requires zoning
Oh, okay.
approval, and if we had known that we were gonna get bumped back a few weeks, we would have added it to the plan and started the ZBA process, but Tim wants to get the house underway as soon as possible. We do plan on coming back for improvements to that footpath, but because it requires zoning, we wanted to keep it separate.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I got one more thing,
Go
Karen.
ahead.
On the landscape plan, that's gonna be in more detail, David, eventually?
More detail?
Yeah, right now, we have, it says like hydrangea to be determined, based on our percentages in the different areas.
He was purposely leaving some detail off the plan because it was outside your jurisdiction, but,
But
So Bob, you want
Some
him
of those
to, you want him to
hydrangeas.
give a detailed list of what the plantings are gonna be?
Yeah, like a legend.
Yeah, we asked him to do, yeah, I'll definitely have him do a legend for us. We wanted to do as many native plantings out there on all of it. There might be some hydrangeas up by the house, on the front section,
there
but,
are 2 areas, at least, of hydrangeas. And the thing is, I know these are 2 different plans, but I believe it can't be more than 75% overall, both plans together.
okay.
I mean, presenting them as 2 different plans is, great. I know there were different purposes for each one. But what's in our jurisdiction, we have to make sure that overall, no more than in the outer aura, and you're not planting in the NDZ, so you're safe there, I think. But, you've got hydrangeas in 2 spots that do go into our jurisdiction, and they should be included in the calculations with Jen's plan. Because it's all, whether it's foundation planting or it's considered mitigation, it's going in our area.
yeah, so I'm pretty confident everything Jen's showing on her plan are 100% natives.
Right. Well,
Yes.
But the only place I see hydrangea is on the water, the riverside, there's 9, and then
There's
there's
7 going across,
the garage.
going toward, along the garage, and then there's 8
Yeah,
to be determined that are going in front of the house.
Yep.
And 3 of those fall,
Yep.
well, 2 1/4 fall into
yeah.
our area.
So we-
Hydrangeas is such a gamble too. I mean, it's,
But-
once every 3 years, you might get flowers out of them. I mean,
This year was
Yeah, this
something.
year, I know everybody got excited about the
It
hydrangeas.
was something, that's for sure. But yeah, as Tim said, we'll get him to put an inventory on the plan, so that the percentage is easy to.
And you'd rather not have the hydrangeas in your jurisdiction? Is that what I'm
But
getting?
you
yeah.
can have like,
We'd rather have all native.
yeah,
native.
but there are
In-
native, there are hydrangeas on
There
there.
is a smooth hydrangea
Okay.
that I happen to have one because I saw it was native and I said, oh, wow. And I will tell you, last year when most hydrangeas didn't have flowers, my whole smooth hydrangea had flowers and it doesn't need to be watered.
Okay.
Except to establish it, but it's been in, I think, 4 years and I've had the whole bush. It doesn't get super big, but I mean, it is native.
Yeah, other than pretty flowers, they really don't do anything for the environment. They're not
Yeah, that's true.
pollinating. Bees can't pollinate, there's no nectar, I mean, you know.
Right.
They just soak up water.
Yeah, they
They
soak
soak
up,
up water, okay.
they don't call them,
I'm
they
not
don't
a-
call
you
them
know.
hydro for nothing.
We got enough hydrangeas in Chatham, we can go without a few more, I'm sure. Right?
We would appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, so, anything else, anybody? Nope. So we're going to have to continue this because there are a lot of things we've asked of you. So, thoughts on when you'd like it continued to?
Tuesday, way beyond the 25th. I don't think that's enough time for Jen and I.
On my end, honestly, I probably have the lightest lift with the tree work. We will have to redo some line work in order to match whatever may change with the hardscape or grading, but
Right, and you'll need to,
Kinda tight,
are
that's all
you
I'm
doing
saying.
the circle or are they?
we'll do the circle.
Then
But it's really,
we
my
need that
timeline will
as
be more
well.
Next
contingent.
on until Monday.
Yep, my
Yeah,
timeline will be more
so the first
contingent
meeting in
on Dave and the landscape designers.
And probably reflecting the edging between the meadow and the lawn, or the
Mm-hmm.
low fence at the mitigation area.
It's a beautiful spot, say that.
Yeah,
I was
So-
shocked that it hasn't.
I don't
been
even know how
built
many
yet.
lots are left in Chatham.
There's one next door.
next door,
If you can
You
find
want
them,
I wish.
put your bid
so,
in.
given that, I mean, we have,
Fifth or the second.
The landscape
Well-
architect is gone till Monday, so first meeting October is realistic.
October 2nd,
Yeah.
That would be the best.
amenable, okay. So with that, we can entertain a motion.
All right, I move that we continue parcel H13, Captain Knowles Way, to the hearing on October the 2nd.
Second.
Janet,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye.
Thank you very much.
For your input?
Thank you.
We'll get
Thank
it
you.
done.
Okay. Catherine, we're ready for the next.
Okay, application for notice of intent for 4 Harbor View Road, map 8A, parcel H49 for Roger and Elaine Morrill, Massachusetts DEP number SC 103699, for invasive plant species control and native plant restoration on and adjacent to a coastal bank. The applicant has requested to continue to the September 25th hearing.
Okay.
All right, I move that we continue 4 Harbor View Road to the hearing on September 25th.
Second.
Janet?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, Catherine, the next.
Okay, moving on to certificates of compliance. So this is kind of special, but per the special condition in numbers, condition 7 in the order of conditions, DEP number SE 103414, the following 2 certificates of compliance were submitted simultaneously. So I'm going to open them at the same time.
That's fine.
So we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 104 Cranberry Lane, map 15J, parcel W6 for Elizabeth Ann Donnelly, DEP number SE 103292. The project included an addition, convert garage to living space, driveway, and associated site work. And a certificate of compliance for 104 Cranberry Lane, map 15J, parcel W6 for Elizabeth Ann Donnelly, DEP number SE 103414. Project was for construction of hardscape, retaining walls, etc.
Okay. And Catherine, your thoughts?
I recommend approval for both the certificates of compliance on this.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions or anything for Catherine on this?
Nope.
Look fine.
Then I think we can go to a motion.
All right, then I will move to approve the request for certificate of compliance for the 2 applications relating to 104 Cranberry Lane.
Oh, second. I get tired at the end.
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay. Next, Catherine, are there any further unforeseen things?
None at this time.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
A while back, It was a house, I think it's the house, last house in Chatham. It's on the Howard-Chatham line on Old Queen Anne Road. It was a pond and it had a metal, like a little dock. And then they said they couldn't, and it was hard, this metal supply, remember? It was,
Yeah,
they couldn't finish it. Whatever happened to that?
I don't know.
Was it 300 Old Queen Anne, or it was like half done. It was a docking that was half done. It was supposed to be mitigation. And then the last we heard was that metal was hard to find and they couldn't finish it.
Was that when they were asking to be able to use some different material?
Well,
I
the
recall one
dock
like
is half built on the pond, and it's made out of aluminum. And they said they couldn't complete it because metal was hard to find. And I don't know, I've never heard of the property again.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to,
Is it Old Queen Anne Road?
Old Queen Anne Road, I think actually the property line of Howard and Chatham goes right through the property, but it's considered a Chatham property. Does it 300 ring a bell, or?
That's where the hedge is up against the street,
Yeah,
and you have the two entrances.
it's a huge house, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to walk to the right.
Yep.
Down
go
and down.
And then there was a low area with a
Yeah,
pond, and.
yeah, we approved that a couple of years ago or so, 3 years ago
You're
or
right,
so.
and it was waiting, but it was never completed, and we,
That was David's. I don't know, David's still not around anymore, but I
no,
remember.
they hightailed it out.
but
Well,
it would be
maybe
nice
what
to-
we can do is look into it and see. Although
I can
Janet's,
look into it tomorrow.
okay, thank you. Then I think we are ready for a motion.
I moved to adjourn.
Second,
Janet,
Aye.
Eric,
aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Crystal. Thanks,
Catherine, you
Catherine.
did
Nice
great.
job.
Thank you.
She wrote out all the things.